all I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the Igneous mob that is southeast, then I'm going to simply drag into H-Spec. And just like that, congratulations, you just cleared the entire challenge wave. What's going on, everyone? Ryan here, and I want to make a quick video going over the easiest, best way to get a Zuk Cape on a Melee Leagues account, because I've had a lot of questions over the last few weeks. Also wanted to mention this video should have come out like over a week ago. I have just been a little bit burnt out because I think I went a little bit too hard at the start of Leagues. You may notice my voice hopefully sounds a little better than it has in previous videos, but yeah, we took a little bit of a break. But we are now back feeling a whole lot better. But I do apologize because I wanted this video out a long time ago. That being said, let's look at the gear in the setup. So first off, I'm wearing full Mystic. What you want to do for your first Zuk Cape is in Leagues, you want to wear full Magic Tank gear, because if you've got the Melee Relic in Tier 5, Magic Tank gear is great because you can combine it with the Animate Dead spell, which is also why we've got Earth Runes, Blood Runes, Soul Runes, and Death Runes. And that is going to make it so that, and I mean this very literally, just about everything in this encounter is going to hit about half as much as it usually would. This spell is absolutely overpowered, especially for kind of wave-based combat, because it's really, really good on the chip damage. Outside of that, I've got the Talkthrough ring, which is from the Elder Kiln quest. You're going to have to do that quest in order to get a Zuk Cape anyway, so you may as well wear the ring. And then I've got an Essence of Finality amulet, and inside of that Essence of Finality amulet, I've got a Dragon 2H sword, which you can actually buy from Xenaris. All you need is a diamond to get past the Gatekeeper, and then you can buy it for like 200k. You can absolutely do this without the Essence of Finality if you're in Tier 5, but I kind of assumed that if you're going for Zuk, you're probably somewhere between Tier 5 and Tier 6. If you're Tier 6, of course, you can get an Essence of Finality relatively easy, and it is going to help a lot for these mob clears. Outside of that, I've got a couple other things. I've got a defense cape on if you're 99 def. That's just going to give me a free kind of permanent sign of life. And then I'm using the Vampirism Aura as well as the Vampirism Scrimshaw. If you're wondering how to get a Vampirism Scrimshaw in a Leagues without any of the requirements, without doing ports, you could do the A Mini Shipment. I'll put the name on screen. Achievement, it takes probably 15 or 20 minutes to do, and that will give you a single-use, one singular Vampirism Scrimshaw, which is extremely helpful for stuff like this, because we're just going to combine all of the healing possible here, combined with the Melee Relic passive healing, the Vamp Aura, the Scrimshaw, and we're not going to be taking a whole lot of damage. Outside of that, in my invent, I've got a shield. It is augmented with the Turtling 3 perk. Getting a Turtling perk is really good. It will help a lot for the third challenge, although you do not need to complete all of the challenges in order to get a Zuk Cape. So this is kind of if you want to kill two birds with one stone. You want to do it flawlessly, and you also want to unlock hard mode Zuk, because in the future, you may want to go for an exit kill. But if you don't really care about passing the challenges, you don't need to bring an augmented shield or anything like that, and you'll just plan to fail some of the challenges. Last things in my invent, I've got a strength potion because we have a 100% hit chance, so an attack potion isn't going to do anything. And I'm also using a Dragon Rider Lance as my main weapon, although you could use a Crystal Halberd, a Lanicus Spear would be better, a Masuda's War Spear would be better than what I have right here, and a Noxious Scythe, of course, would be better than what I have here, but kind of go with whatever you want. I'm also going to mention the prayer potions in my invent should probably be replaced with super restores, because during the Zuk fight, Zuk can lower your max HP, and drinking a super restore will restore it, so I would probably do super restores, but prayer potions will be just fine as well. I also did want to mention, this is not like a minimum gear setup. You could actually go worse than this for sure. I was kind of playing around with different setups and different ideas. I felt like Mystic was the right call because it's tier 50. You could upgrade to Ganodermic. If you're 100 crafting, you could also upgrade to Starbloom, and you'll be way, way tankier with both of those. But I was able to complete the run here without using a single food, so to me, that probably means we are good enough. And what I'm going to do for this video is for each wave, I'm just going to go over kind of where I'm aiming to stand, what I'm aiming to do for each of the waves, because the most important thing at Zuk, and I've said this before in other videos and other guides, is every single wave in the Zuk encounter has a combat style where most of the enemies are, and then you'll get a couple enemies that use a different combat style at the same time. And what you want to do in this case is, if you got a range wave, you might think you want to kill the rangers first and pray range, but you actually don't. You want to kill the non-rangers first, so you're only ever taking damage from one combat style. With that said, let's hop on in to wave 1 and get this thing started. Heading into wave 1, you're going to have a bunch of meleeers and a couple bats. The approach for this one is pretty simple. You're just going to stand in the middle of the room, you're going to drink your strength potion, and you are going to start attacking these meleeers. This is not a wave where you should take a whole lot of damage, and you just want to pray deflect melee. Something I want to mention as well is the bats are by far the most annoying mob because they lower your adrenaline and they can also lower your prayer. They're just kind of annoying. So if the bats are in range and able to attack you, you probably want to get rid of them quickly. Something else you're going to see here as well is I'm spending a lot of my time using the Dragon two-handed special attack. It is absolutely insane in Leagues. I believe it has a 7x7 range, so just a massive area around your character, and it can hit a lot of damage too. No ultimate ability or anything required for wave 1. Let's just clear out those mobs and then get set for wave 2. For wave 2, we're going to have a mix of meleeers and rangers, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to get rid of the rangers first. The rangers spawn on the northeast and the northwest corners, so I'm going to preemptively stand northeast and get ready to take out this first ranger right off rip. The ranger is going to spawn, and let's deal with him before anything else spawns in. And just like that, we've managed to kill this ranger without having to deal with any of the meleeers. Let's head over to the second ranger, clear the second ranger as well, and now I can throw on deflect melee and keep it on for the entire rest of this wave. This is a very similar mentality to how we're going to do a lot of the waves here, where the meleeers are around me. I'm now going to Dragon 2H spec them. We're going to deal with the bats, and then we've got one more meleeer and one more bat to kill. But you can see that because we killed the rangers first, things are extremely easy here. All I need to do is pray melee, and we're just going to chill and hang out in the middle of the room and take out these meleeers just like that. For wave 3, you're going to get a bat and 2 meleeers spawning south first, and then you're going to have a ranger spawning east and another ranger spawning west. What I like to do is I like to start things off by getting rid of the bat, so we're going to prioritize that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move all the way to the west side, and I'm going to deal with this ranger first. Something that's fun that you can do as well is you can use these monsters as blockers. So if you want to, what you could actually do is you could stand a couple tiles even further west than I am right now, and that ranger is actually going to prevent all of the meleeers from attacking me. But with that said, considering there are lots of meleeers on me, I'm going to pray deflect melee, and we're just going to deal with the 2 rangers as quickly as we possibly can. Once the rangers have been dealt with, we can now pray melee for the entire rest of the wave, and you're about to see the dragon two-handed sword going burr and just clearing out the entirety of the wave. This wave is exactly the same as wave 2, where we're going to deal with the rangers first, and then once the rangers are dealt with, we are going to relax and take out the meleeers, easy as that. With wave 3 out of the way, we are getting in it to our first challenge wave. For each of these Igneous meleeers, you have to hit them with a stun before you're able to attack them. So we're going to stun that initial Igneous meleeer, and then just like that, we're going to move on to the second one, and then we'll move on to the third one. I'm using either backhand or forceful backhand as my only stuns. Those are kind of the only ones you have, and they're also the only ones you're going to need. We're going to take out these 3 Igneous meleeers, and then we are going to get onto Zuk. It's really important to note here that if you cannot do 50,000 damage to Zuk, this Igneous wave is just going to repeat, but it doesn't actually count as failing the Zuk encounter, so you could actually do this in as many cycles as you'd like. You're going to see here, we're going to get our 50,000 damage off, just like that. That's probably a good time to mention as well that I do have Greater Barge, and I have some of the other upgraded abilities, but I'm going out of my way to not use them. So you may have noticed here, I used Berserk. I did not use Greater Barge to bleed my Assault, because I think that would kind of be cheating, and I'd recommend probably going for a Zuk Cape before you start grinding out things like Elite Dungeon 2. With that said, we've done our 50,000 damage, so let's get into the easiest challenge 1 of all time. All you're going to do for this first challenge is you're going to make sure you're above 50% adrenaline, and you're just going to not move at all. All I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the Igneous mob that is southeast, then I'm going to simply Dragon 2H spec. And just like that, congratulations, you just cleared the entire challenge wave. And this is a really good way to illustrate how strong this D2H is with a halberd. The range on it is absolutely ridiculous, and this is like our absolute go-to for the entirety of this Zuk run. It is insane how good this is. And with the first challenge wave out of the way, we're heading in to wave 6, which is the first Jad wave. The Jad on this wave is going to spawn south, and then outside of that, we're going to have a couple meleeers and a lot of rangers. So I'm going to pray deflect range, and I'm just going to prioritize clearing out these rangers before the meleeers get to me. It's also really important to note that I'm not going to run all the way east, because if I do, the Jad that is currently all the way south is going to get unstuck and be able to attack me. So it might be worth looking over that way and making sure that you're not getting hit. Because I'm feeling good about my damage and the Dragon two-handed special attack, I'm going to clear out all of the rangers and the bats before the meleeers get to me, and then that way, I'm only being hit by one combat style at a time. Just like that, we're going to clear out the meleeers, and then it's time to focus on the Jad. Something to mention with the Jads is because you have that 3-tile attack range, you do not need to worry about being melee hit by the Jads. There is a method to melee flick them that I'll talk about a little bit later in here, in case you're not really sure about your positioning, but in general, the safest bet is just to stand a little bit further back, and that way all you have to do is flick the range hits and flick the magic attacks. Something else that's really nice though is you actually can face tank Jad hits with this setup, because I have so many life points. 12,900 HP is enough that a Jad hit will not one-shot me. Heading into wave 7 on the north, you're going to see a mage spawn, and you're also going to see 2 bats. What I like to do is I actually like to use Berserk at the start of this phase, because we want to deal damage quickly before these rangers spawn, because you don't really want to be getting hit by melee, range, and magic at the same time. So there we go. I'm going to clear the bats. I'm going to pray deflect range while there are 2 rangers on me, and now I'm going to get on the rangers. And you're going to notice that I am so powerful in this leagues with the power of the melee relic that you can actually do a ton of damage with regard to clearing things in just about a single hit. And this time around as well, I'm also going to use the Devotion ability because it's mostly rangers attacking me and I don't want to take any damage. Because I'm devoed, I'm not too worried about getting one shot or taking a ton of damage, so I'm actually going to jump into the middle of this huge group of mobs and I'm going to use the Dragon two-handed special just to clear them all at once. You absolutely do not have to do that and you can happily just chip away at them one at a time, but I felt like it was worth it in this instance because I'm berserked and because I've got Devotion. Something that's worth noting about the Devotion ability as well that makes it really good here is anytime you kill a monster with it up to 2 times, it's going to extend the Devo by an extra 5 seconds per. So you actually end up with full immunity to one combat style for 20 seconds if you use Devo correctly in the Zuk fight. Now let's head into Wave 8, where you're going to see 2 mages and 1 ranger spawn, and I would actually recommend instead of killing this ranger to the north, I would actually kill the mages first, and you're going to see why in a second here, because a bunch of additional rangers are going to spawn in just after the fact. So I'd probably deal with the mages first, and then get the rangers dealt with afterwards. Despite prioritizing things wrong, I'm pretty high HP and I've got lifesteal on my side, so let's run around the corner, take a bunch of range damage while we're praying deflect range, and deal with the mages. What you're gonna notice next is there are a bunch of rangers that are kind of far casting me from around the room, and it's not terribly efficient to kill them all one at a time. The other thing about these rangers is that the longer they have their feet planted without moving, the more damage they deal every single time they attack, so it's really beneficial to get them moving. And the easiest way to get them moving is I'm just gonna use the safe spot that's right next to me, and I'm just gonna run around it to basically wrap all of these mobs, and whenever they can't see me, they're gonna walk towards me, and that's gonna result in me taking way less damage for the entirety of the wave, and me being able to AoE them a little bit too. So you're gonna see here, I'm kind of wrapping around the safe spot, and because of that, I'm taking significantly less damage and forcing everybody to move. I'm also going to use Devotion again here, just so that I don't need to worry about taking a single damage. We do a Hurricane, we do a bit of a Dragon 2H spec, and we should be good to go and finish off the wave. I also did want to mention that whenever you're in any kind of danger, you can kind of just jump behind the southeast safe spot, and it should make you immune to most of the damage you're getting. A lot of people swear by the safe spot and use it for every single wave. I personally don't agree with that mentality, and I think it's less good to let every single monster kind of stack up around the safe spot, and then whenever you poke your head out, you get blasted. But it is a really good thing to have in your back pocket, so that if you mess up a wave or a lure, just run back here and it should sort itself out and help quite a bit. You're going to see here that I am taking a bit of magic damage from the vent, but we're still in a very good spot to deal with the meleeer, and then we're going to step out behind the safe spot and actually deal with the ranger over the safe spot. This looks really funny, and it's not something you can do in the live game with this distance, but with the extra attack range you get in leagues, you could basically range with a melee weapon. So I'm actually going to deal with this ranger from behind the safe spot. Now we're going to head in to our second Igneous wave that's going to have 3 Igneous rangers. Each of these rangers need to be hit by a threshold ability, and what I'm going to choose to do actually is use the berserk ability. You absolutely don't need to do that, but it's going to save me a little bit of time. We're going to build up to use thresholds, get a threshold, and deal with our first Igneous mob. You're also going to notice too that I am taking a good bit of damage, but without Animate Dead, I would be taking literally double the damage I currently am. We're going to deal with the Rangers really quick, and then I'm going to head behind the south safe spot, just so that I don't need to worry about taking damage from the other Rangers while I deal with the Igneous one. And then, once all 3 of the Igneous mobs are dealt with, it's going to be as easy as hitting the special action button and dealing 50,000 damage to the boss. If you want to go for a flawless run, you actually do not need to complete these Igneous challenge waves and the 50,000 damage in one cycle. So here, you're going to see me sandbagging a little bit. I didn't get my 50,000 damage done, and all that's going to happen is this Igneous wave is going to repeat itself. But because this wave didn't use any food or any supplies, it kind of doesn't matter, and it's going to set us up for the easiest Igneous wave of all time. Because the second challenge wave involves dealing a lot of damage, and I wanted to save my berserk for it. So we're going to fast forward through the Igneous wave. I am going to berserk, and I'm going to one-shot the boss because he's only got 500 life points before phasing, and now you're going to see why we did all of that. I'm sitting in a berserk. I've got my challenge mob, who's the Unbreakable, and we're actually just gonna two-shot him with a Hurricane and then a basic ability just like that. So that's a really good option if you're having trouble dealing with the Unbreakable one. Just go in a full berserk and don't worry about one-cycling the challenge wave. Heading into wave 11, we're going to have a double Jad, and they're both going to spawn north, but they spawn after a little bit, so you've got enough time to deal with this first mage right off rip. We're going to do that, and then I'm going to surge and dive all the way to the southeast corner of the room, and I'm going to hide behind the safe spot that we talked about in a previous wave. I'm going to deal with the meleeer from Narnia, and then after that, I'm going to focus on getting rid of the bat, because he's actually attacking me from a pretty far distance, and I'm only taking damage from the 3 mages anyway, so let's head on over and deal with the bat. After that, let's clear the 3 mages, and something I want you to look out for here is the northeastern Jad. He has a really, really good attack range, and you're going to see in a second here, he is going to be able to attack me just like that, so we want to make sure that we're praying accordingly. We've got one more mob to deal with, and then all we have to do is deal with the 2 Jads, and that will be the end of wave 11. A lot of these waves, it's really just about knowing where to stand at each given point so that you don't end up standing in the middle of 50 mobs who are all attacking you at the same time. We're going to deal with these Jads nice and easily, and then we are going to head on to the two most difficult waves in the entire challenge, waves 12 and wave 13. At the start of wave 12, a couple mages are going to spawn as well as a bat. I'd recommend dealing with the bat first, and then what we're going to do is we're going to deal with the two rangers that spawn on the east and the western sides of the room. And to deal with them, I always like to use Berserk, because in a couple seconds here, you're going to see a ton of mages spawning, and I've found that for this wave, the only thing you can do that's really going to mess you up is standing in one spot and getting hit by the rangers and the mages at the same time. And I'm actually going to surge from one ranger to the second one while praying Deflect Magic, and we're going to deal with the rangers just like that. And now, we can pray Deflect Magic and we can chill. I'm now going to use Devotion, and then I'm actually going to extend it by using my Dragon two-handed special attack and killing some of the mobs around me. And now, I've got 20 seconds of immunity from any magic attacks while there are only magic enemies remaining. And that is the easiest wave 12 of all time. But what about wave 13? Wave 13 is actually easier than wave 12, because unlike wave 12, you're going to have the same distribution of enemies, but the mages are going to spawn all around you, and the rangers are going to spawn both north and south. If you stand on the northwest corner of the room like I am here, you're going to see a ranger spawning right next to me, and the other ranger is actually going to spawn in a way that he gets trapped. So just make sure that you never run all the way east so that you don't shake loose the ranger that's about to spawn in just a second here. You'll see it in a moment, and there is the ranger, and the ranger is now stuck. Same as the last wave, we're just going to stand behind the safe spot, we're going to deal some damage, we're going to utilize our Dragon two-handed special attack, and we should have a really easy wave 13. Once all the mages are dealt with, I'm going to deal with the southwestern mage very quickly while the ranger is still stuck, and then we're going to pray Deflect Range and deal with the ranger just like that. And that is an easy wave 13. You're also going to notice there that I reapplied Animate Dead because you do not want that to run out. That is the thing that is making this a breeze for us right now. The damage reduction on it is absolutely insane, even with tier 50 Mystics. With wave 13 done, we're into our final Igneous wave, and for this one we've got 3 mages, and the way to deal damage to them is you have to stand inside their little bubble in order to break it, and then once their shield breaks, you should be good to clear them out. The one special thing that these mages do is they can actually attack you on full map range so long as they can see you. So you actually can take a lot of damage from this wave, and without lifesteal, it's actually a bit of an annoying one. We're about to clear out the second one, and then we're gonna head on over to the third and final mage while everybody else gets trapped. This would be a really good wave to use the Devotion ability on as well if you'd like to, or you're taking lots of damage. The other thing that you're gonna notice here is everyone is so nicely stacked up that you may find it hard to resist not just slamming that Dragon two-hander spec and dealing some damage to the entire group. With that said, let's focus on the mission, press the special action button, and get some damage done on Zuk. Aim to do your 50,000 damage to Zuk, and also be on full adrenaline for this challenge wave, as this is the one where you're going to be hit 4 separate times, twice by typeless attacks, and then twice by typed attacks. There are a couple different ways of doing this, but my easiest and best advice for doing this flawlessly is literally just using Barricade with a Turtling 3 or Turtling 4 shield. If you're not sure if your shield is high enough tier for it to last the entire duration, you can also do what I do here, which is I'm going to wait for that first attack to be flying towards me, and then I'm going to use Resonance on the first hit. And then after that, I'm just going to simply use Barricade for hits 2, hits 3, and hits 4. And you're going to notice that I have an absolute ton of time remaining on my Barricade as well, so with this setup, I easily could have just K'd all 4 hits. And now we're heading in to the triple Jad, where all 3 Jads are going to spawn right around the challenge platform. So very similarly to the second Jad wave, we're going to head to the southeast corner, and we're actually just going to wait behind the safe spot. And the Jads are going to lure perfectly every single time. You're going to see Jad 1 walking towards me, nice and easy, and whenever we're ready, we are going to begin attacking. On Jad 2 here, I wanted to show you guys how to deal with the Jads in melee distance, because as nice as it is to be like, oh, just never be in melee distance, sometimes the Jads will melee you from far away, sometimes you'll be kind of trapped in melee distance, so I wanted to show you how to flick them. The easiest way to melee flick a Jad is as simple as this. What you're going to do is you're going to see Jad use a ranged or a magic attack, and whenever you do, you flick to that prayer until you're hit. The second you get hit, just put your prayer back on to deflect melee, because the melee attack comes out a tick faster and there's a lot less lead time. Jad is ranging here, so I'm going to throw on Deflect Range. As soon as I get hit, I'm going to go back to Deflect Melee. And just like that, we're dealing with all of the melee hits by preemptively flicking to Deflect Melee for them. With that said, let's get Jad 3 finished off, and let's head into the final 2 waves of the Zuk encounter. My best advice for Har Aken is as long as you're dealing decent damage to him, you likely won't need to worry about the damage that you're taking from the tentacles that are spawning around the room. Lifesteal is extremely strong, and that's even without Vamp Aura and even without the Vampirism Scrimshaw. So that would be my best advice I could give you there. Something you're going to notice is the only thing I'm really looking at while I'm dealing damage to Har Aken is I'm just looking to the right and to the left of him. Because whenever these little tendrils spawn, and I'll point out the next one, all you need to do is take 2 steps away from the tile you're currently standing. You can see here on the north side of Har Aken that there's a little bit of bubbling happening, and then as soon as that projectile flies up, all I'm going to do is I'm going to take 2 steps, and that way I'm going to dodge the adrenaline drain. I'm going to continue dealing damage to Har Aken, and you're going to see here that I am not able to complete the 1 cycle, which is completely fine. There's also a spawn limit for these tentacles, so you could stand and kill the tentacles, but if you do, they're just gonna respawn. So my advice would actually be to just look for an area of the map where there aren't too many enemies, and I just chill out there for a little bit. You can build adrenaline and get ready for your next cycle, but predominantly, just don't stand around a bunch of tentacles that are hitting you if you don't have to. During this downtime, Har Aken is also going to do 1 attack where he bombards you. And this is a really fun attack because even though it looks really scary and the arena gets encased in a ton of fire and a ton of damage, all you have to do is actually just move a couple tiles in any direction that is directly north, south, east, or west. In this instance, I'm going to move 3 tiles to the east, and just like that, I'm literally not getting hit by any of it. After a few more seconds, Har Aken is going to spawn back in, and let's finish him off and get ready for the Zuk part. Once Har Aken goes down, I'm just going to head to Zuk's feet, and I'm going to start building some adrenaline up. If you wanted to, you could also use the Natural Instinct ability here, but I'm assuming that you may have not done the World Wakes quest, especially as a melee Chad who maybe doesn't need it. So we're not going to use Natty here, and instead, all I'm going to do is I'm going to use Berserk once Zuk is attackable. The first special attack Zuk uses is called You Will Break Beneath Me, and as soon as he uses that, just use the Freedom ability and resume attacking. The second mechanic Zuk uses is Burn, or he will occasionally also say Sear instead. The way to deal with the second mechanic is just to move 15 tiles. You could Surge and dive back, or what I like to do is like to hit Surge and then just run back to my original location while I continue attacking, and if you don't do that and you don't move at all, you're going to take a bit of a bleed, and you're also going to have your max HP lowered. That's where the super restores come in if you bring them. Attack 3 is called The Earth Yields to Me, and for this one, there are going to be a bunch of fissures that open up in the ground, and if you stand on them, you're going to take a bunch of typeless damage, and then you're also going to take a magic bleed as well that you're going to have to use Freedom on. It's worth noting that in the main game, your Freedom won't be off cooldown yet, so this is extremely dangerous and annoying, but in Leagues, because you've got a cooldown reduction, you actually can just Freedom it if you end up standing in the wrong spot, so not quite as dangerous inside of Leagues. I'm going to rewind because there's one other thing that Zuk does here if you move too far away from him. You're actually going to see that I'm going to take a magic hit here. And the way to tell that Zuk is going to do a magic hit is instead of swinging his sword at me, you're going to see he does this attack where he puts both of his arms out. Whenever he does that, I'm just going to flick to deflect magic because that means I'm going to get a magic hit. And just like that, we're going to resume attacking Zuk. You also see there that my Freedom ability is available, so whenever I want to get rid of that bleed, I'm just going to use Freedom and deal with it like that. And then Zuk is going to use the Begone attack, where he's going to drop a rock from the ceiling that's going to hit about 4,000 or 5,000 damage. Easiest way to deal with this is simply to throw on a shield and use Resonance. But once again, with this setup, you could literally phase tank it and heal it back no problem at all. Next thing I'm worried about doing here is building up Adrenaline for Pizza Time, which is the only real DPS check in this fight. That is the next mechanic, and we want to make sure we're doing as much damage as we possibly can. Zuk is going to say Flames Consume You, and at that point, you're either going to use Freedom or Anticipation, and then right off rip, you're going to head to the northwest corner of the room, where a melee-type Igneous mob will be waiting for you. My recommendation in Leagues, especially if your damage output isn't the absolute best, is to use Berserk for this. You may as well. It'll be available when you need it next anyway when you're getting back on Zuk, and it's going to make sure that your pizza time is just a little bit smoother. So I'm going to use Berserk, I'm going to use a basic ability stun, and all we're going to do is we're going to kill this Igneous mob as quickly as we possibly can. You also want to make sure that you're standing in the safe slice of the pizza, because if you're not standing in the safe area, you're going to take a ton of magic damage and it's basically going to kill you. Then we're going to head on over to the second mob, and this is the Ranger, so we use a Threshold ability, and we clear the Ranger just like that by using Assault at the end of our Berserk. Now we're back on Zuk, and we're building Adrenaline. Then last but not least, we're going to have a Magic mob, we're going to head on into the bubble, and get the Magic mob dealt with. Easy as that. Pizza time is a point of struggle for a lot of people at Zuk, and I will also say that this can take some practice. I know a lot of people that haven't really got the hang of it, and it just takes some practice. And if you do die to the pizza time and the pizza phase at Zuk, you can actually go back and repeat the phase until you can do it with your eyes closed. It obviously won't count for the cape once you eventually kill Zuk, but it's kind of like a forced practice mode, because you can skip all of the waves and just focus on the Zuk fight until you've got it down. And then once you've got it down, you can then repeat, do your full run, and do it all in one shot. you're going to see that there's a bar charging up above Zuk's head, and whenever this bar gets full, you're going to get insta-killed. And the only way to avoid the insta-kill is to kill all 3 Igneous mobs and then press your special action button. So you're going to see here, I'm going to press the special action button, but I did want to illustrate how much time you have to get this done. It's not an absolute ton of time, and the pizza phase does happen pretty quickly. But with that said, we've got it done, we've staggered Zuk, and now it's just going to repeat the exact same set of mechanics we had before. So welcome to our second cycle. We've almost completed our second cycle where Zuk has just repeated the exact same mechanics as before, but you're going to notice that Zuk does something a little bit different if you get him under 100k. As soon as you get Zuk to 100,000 life points or below, instead of continuing his regular attack rotation, he's actually going to restart after the "you will break beneath me." That's going to be a little bit dangerous because, as an example, if you just got this mechanic and you used freedom on the bleed, you could then get another bleed put on you right after, and you may not have freedom available for it. If you do get blood twice in a row, that is why. And my advice would be, if you're about to hit 100,000 HP, just make sure that your freedom is available, and if it isn't, I would just get off the boss for a little bit, wait until your freedom is up, and then you're going to hit the phase point. Just like that, we've gotten under 100,000 HP, I'm going to use Berserk, and I'm also going to have freedom available to freedom that bleed. Zuk is going to then just repeat the same set of mechanics as before, nice and easy, and we're going to cruise our way to a successful no food used, 4 prayer potions used Zuk kill in leagues with a Dragon Rider Lance and full Mystics. So with that said, I really hope this video helped you out. Congratulations to me on the Zuk pet, which is, kind of cool to see in a league. And outside of that, hopefully this video helped you get your first ever Zuk Cape in leagues as a melee Chad. With that said, if you have any questions or any concerns or anything else that you'd like me to cover, don't hesitate to let me know in the comment section down below. Sorry again for the little absence we had. I just got absolutely burned out from the hours I was putting in, and I needed a little bit of a rest, and so did the rest of my team. With that said, we're back in action now, and we'll see you guys very soon for the next video. Thank you all so much for watching. Thanks for bearing with, and I'll catch you very soon for the next one.